Hey you, welcome to my channel, Year and a Day. My name is Jenny and in this video I will be going over my month of February. Now we're already 9 days into March, so I hope I will be able to get this video out soon-ish. But there were some things happening in February and I got some new exciting stuff in, so I didn't want to wait until the end of March to make another monthly video. So I'll be going over some life stuff, some journal updates, and of course I will be showing some things that I acquired in February. So let's dive in. And let's start with a little life update. If you saw my December and January video, you will have heard me mention that I am struggling with my health at the moment. And unfortunately, that was not resolved in February. So the struggle continues and the struggle is real. In my last video, I was struggling still a bit with how to talk about it or what I wanted to share. But basically I was diagnosed with chronic pain at the start of January. And this was a result of me walking around with chronic stress for 4 decades. And it was starting to take a serious physical toll as well. And honestly, I am a little bit surprised at how much of a surprise it was for me to get that diagnosis, because I have felt the physical consequences of my mental stress for decades now. This was not something new to me, but it was just never truly acknowledged. And I've really been trying to just accept the whole situation and to accept the fact that it will take time for me to find a new way to function in my day-to-day life. I am still waiting for treatment to start that will hopefully help me in my recovery, or at least help me in finding a way to cope. But February was kind of a struggle and it was all over the place. I really had moments where I felt that positivity and hopefulness and gratitude for the fact that I am getting help. Gratitude for the fact that there is a safety net to catch me when I am falling. The support of my husband, of my employer. And I am grateful for all of those things. To be completely honest, guys, I am also so pissed off. I am so angry as well. And I am still trying to kind of navigate that, because I also know that ignoring that anger, that emotion, that will also not do me any good. So it has to be released before I can really move on to acceptance and gratitude, etc. And at this moment, everything is kind of coexisting. So February was kind of a roller coaster and I was all over the place. There were moments where I was hopeful and grateful and even a bit creative and really taking it one day at a time. But there were also moments where I was feeling completely hopeless and lacking of energy to keep on trying. And like I said, there was also anger and frustration because I'm not really making any progress at this time. I was also just really angry with every single doctor and specialist that I saw over the past 40 years that all told me that it was all in my head, that there was nothing wrong, that I should just chill out and breathe through it, and they just sent me on my way and wished me good luck. And I was kind of back to drowning by myself again. And I really tried to keep my head above water for so long. And in a way, I really felt and hoped that my ADHD diagnosis, which I got at the age of 39, which is almost 2 years ago now, I really hope that that diagnosis kind of meant a bit of closure for me. And in a way, I already told myself that I had had closure and that I was moving forward again. So this kind of feels like a setback and something that is dragging me down again. Because at this moment, my body is really not cooperating. I have some weird muscle tension in my hands. I had to start wearing my wedding ring on my right hand because my left ring finger is pretty messed up at the moment, and it has been for over 2 months. The real issue is in my neck and shoulders, which are constantly completely tensed up, making me have terrible headaches and really not allowing me to just function on a day-to-day basis. And I've kind of managed to keep the worst pain at bay. But I have to follow a very, very strict schedule and a lot of breaks during the day where I have to lie down for 20 minutes. And I can't really do anything for too long. So I cannot really sit for too long. I cannot really walk for too long. So everything has to be timed and everything has to be restricted. And there has to be a lot of variety in my activities as well. And there has to be enough rest. And if I do that all to the T, then I'm kind of all right. But as soon as I kind of deviate only a little bit, the tension will build up very quickly. And if I push through, then it will completely escalate and I will be back to that kind of not really being able to function stage of it. So it's kind of a lot to navigate and explore and see what works and what doesn't. And there's a lot more that doesn't work at the moment. So it's a lot of trial and error. And again, I am trying to be hopeful. I am trying to be grateful. And I'm trying to keep my head up and just patiently, with a lot of kindness towards myself, just move forward. Even if it's little steps, it's still steps forward. So I had been struggling a bit in my last videos on how much I wanted to share or should share. The last thing I want to do is burden anybody else with my issues or my frustration. I also absolutely do not want to throw pity parties for myself. And at the same time, I just really feel very strongly about the importance of talking about this stuff. And hopefully I will get a little better at it as time goes on. I will be able to share what I'm learning or experiencing a little bit better. I feel like at this moment I'm still a bit in it, so it's a bit all over the place still. But hopefully that will improve over time. And obviously I also hope that I will learn things that will really help me in the future to kind of live my life the way that I would like it. So that's a bit of an update about where I am at the moment. Now let's slowly make the transition into the fun stuff. Again, there was a lot that I wasn't able to do, but I really tried to focus on the things that I could do and do those as much as possible. And that really helped me. That helped me feeling a little productive, a little creative, and of course that gave me some positive energy as well. But I was very limited on time. For example, sitting down at my desk and writing for my neck and shoulders as well as my hands was something that I was not able to do for a long time without experiencing cramping and pain. And basically that meant that I had 12 minutes where I could kind of do something. And that could be writing in my journal or making a little sketch or just creating something that I wanted to create. And 12 minutes is not very long, but it proved to be possible to kind of do a lot of fun stuff in those 12 minutes. And the first thing that I will be showing is not something really fun or creative, but it was very practical for me and very helpful. So I thought I would share that. Maybe it's something that you could use in your life, because it is this visual timer. It's very simple. You turn it on and set a timer for yourself. And it will show you how much time you have left. Now, for my neurodivergent ADHD brain, this is something that is very useful anyway. Kind of estimating how much time I have left to do something is a little bit tricky. I often think that I have plenty of time left, when in fact I have not so much time left. So that makes me need to rush a lot or kind of stress out over getting somewhere in time or stuff like that. And I really felt that working with a timer like this really proved to be useful, because of course I could just put it on those 12 minutes, have it on my desk, and I know exactly how much time I would have left. This one also counts upwards, so if you just want to track how long you've been doing something, for example, then this is also very nice, and it can go up to 12 hours. But I've mostly been using it to make sure that I am not doing anything for too long. So that really helped me with my time management in February and with making sure that I kind of respected my own boundaries and limitations. Let's continue with a little journal update. The first thing that I wanted to show was my little reading journal. This was actually quite a spontaneous little project. I've seen reading journals around online and people make the most beautiful reading journals, but I never really felt the need to create one myself. But I've been reading quite a lot these past few months, because normally I have a bit of trouble with finding the peace and quiet to just sit down and read a book. But of course in February I really try to focus on all the activities that I was able to do and that would be kind of healthy for me and not escalate my muscle cramps and stuff. And reading was definitely one of them. And I just spontaneously decided that it would be so much fun to just have a little reading journal and track the books that I was reading. And it was also a lot of fun to kind of create my own customized notebook for that. I actually filmed some footage of the whole process, so I'm probably showing that right now. Basically what I did was I took my paper cutter and an old Heikela calendar from 2024 and I cut off the illustration. Her calendars are beautiful and of very lovely quality. So I had already kind of in mind to keep the calendar around and see if I could maybe either use the illustrations on my gallery wall or frame them or maybe use them for something else. And the illustrations actually proved to be a near perfect fit for this little A6 size notebook by MD Paper. And it was really just a very quick and dirty little creative project. I only attached some tape on the front of the illustration in the notebook and made sure that that was secure. And then just put a little plastic cover on the notebook. And that's it. It sticks perfectly, as you can see. There's a little bit of the cover of the original notebook visible, but not at all in a way that it is annoying to me. I really love how it turned out. And again, it was just a very lovely way to reuse an old calendar and to make sure that the beautiful artwork by Heikela finds a little place in my journal collection and rotation. Because this is now, of course, sitting on my desk and just being used. I had this little elastic band from Midori, Traveler's Company, lying around still, and I just used that one to keep it all nice and secure and closed. In the back I have this little envelope, and I already printed out some of the books that I plan to read in 2025. And on the first page, when you open the notebook, I have a space for the book that I am currently reading. Truthfully, I am not currently reading this one because I still have to kind of put a picture of the book that I am reading, but I just wanted to show how it would look like while I am reading a certain book. And then I just do these little write-ups for the books that I have read. And as you can see, I am finally reading the Earth's Children series. I really felt like starting the year with a book that was eventful but not too complicated or high stakes. I didn't want to get overly emotional about a book or anything. I just wanted this perfect combination of entertaining but also calming. And reading a book that is set in the Ice Age, like 30,000 years ago, was actually a really good choice for me. It was just entertaining, and I read the first 2 books in the series in January and February. And then I needed a little break and read Cuckoo Song by Frances Hardinge. I am still on a quest to read all her books, so I am just working my way through those. And I am actually reading right now on an e-reader. It's just a lot more lightweight than a physical book, so it's easier for me to hold. Also, it's a lot more flexible because I can read pretty much anywhere in the house, and even in low light, that is no problem. Currently, I am reading Blood Over Bright Haven. Someone recommended it to me and I just decided to give it a try without doing pretty much any research on it. So that's actually quite a fun way to kind of dive into a book, not really having any idea about the plot. So I am reading that one at the moment. So that is my reading journal. Then on to my daily journal. If you've seen any of my previous videos about my whole journal setup for 2025, you will know that I have a few other journals as well, mainly a practical daily planner and a health journal. But there's just not really anything interesting to say about those. My health journal is quite important to me at the moment. It is something that I just log daily, and it is really helpful to track stuff, to not forget about anything that happened, especially when I am talking to doctors or they have certain questions. That health journal really helps me to clarify some things. And as far as the practical planner goes, of course, I decided to get a practical planner to manage my life, to manage to-do lists and chores and appointments, and I've hardly used it so far. It has proven to be useful for notes and appointments with doctors or stuff like that, but I by no means am using it as intensively as I had hoped or planned to do. But my daily journal is something that I am so very, very happy with. I am still struggling a bit with how much I actually want to share. Or I should say I want to share everything because I love it so much. But at the same time it is pretty personal, and even though I usually just write about my days, I do also feel like it does feel a bit like my diary. And I just feel a bit weird about showing that online. But I will try to give a little update on how I am using the journal and what changes I made in February. I am using a Hobonichi A5 Cousin Avec with this absolutely delightful cover. I am still so very happy that I splurged on this one. Just all these different doodles in all these lovely bright colors, they just make me oh so happy. And on top of that, the inside of the cover is this beautiful yellow. And this is honestly one of my favorite colors. So I'm just super happy with this one. I am also very happy that I went for the A5 size and for the Cousin Avec. This one kind of divides the year into two parts. So this is a January to June book. And already it is bulking up a bit. So I am just very happy with my choice there. Also, the A5 size is nowhere near as intimidating as I had expected. I am still kind of decorating the front cover and I might add some more stickers soon. I made all these stickers myself by using Midjourney, which is an AI art creating tool. I love using that for personal use. It is such a fun way to experiment with creating custom illustrations and then just printing them out and having all these lovely stickers to use. In the cover pages, I just collect some random illustrations and stuff that I had laying around. I have covered up my husband's face to protect his privacy with this little coin. But it is actually quite a lovely picture of a lovely memory that we had together in Schwarzwald this past July when we went on a hike through the mountains and found this beautiful little restaurant with very kind people and lovely food. And we sat outside and had a lovely view, and suddenly there also was this little kitty cat that came begging for a bit of food. And of course we are cat people, so we really loved the company. And she also really enjoyed getting some cuddles. So that was just a really lovely memory. So I'm keeping that one in there. I added this little card from the Self-Love Tarot, the Magician. I got this one with my order and I think it is very lovely. Of course, the message for the Magician is that you have all the tools you need to create whatever you want. And that is a message that I am trying to hold on to at this moment. This is a bookmark that I got with the Sleepwalker Tarot. It's the Two of Swords, and that is also kind of fitting for, I guess, my current situation or my situation in February. I added this little Explore sticker. Explore actually is my word of the year 2025. And the intention was to explore what I love, what I want to do with my life. Not run away from anything or try to escape anything, but really allow myself the freedom to dream and explore. So that was a lovely one to add as well. This is a little picture of two pins that I gifted to my husband for his birthday in February. It is basically meant to represent us. I always call him my golden retriever husband because he is just very stable and very happy and very active and social, and I just really enjoy that about him. But of course, for myself, I just rather have a lovely glass of wine and drape myself down amidst of my books and journals and just chill out. So these 2 pins really gave me a lot of joy to give to him in February. I also went through a set of postcards that I had laying around. This one comes from the effin birds. They always make me laugh, and of course this one seemed like a perfect fit. We're maxed out on clusterfucks over here. Yes, we are. No more, please. We've had enough. And I think I do not only speak for myself, I think I can speak for the whole entire world at this moment. It's been a weird start of the year. I am trying to avoid the news a bit as well because I maxed out pretty much, and I'm trying to keep positive thoughts. But I thought it was just very funny and fitting, and reminds me to kind of always keep a little humor in mind, even in times where there is frustration or anger or sadness or whatever. Humor is a lovely thing to hold on to. So that is kind of the first thing I see when I open this book. When it comes to the monthly pages, I really do not give any attention to it during the month. Instead, I will just pick a moment whenever I feel like it and print some photos of the highlights and stuff, and then create a monthly overview at the end of the month of all the lovely memories or stuff that I did. So this is something that I will do once a month. Now for the weekly pages, I kind of started in January with using this as a daily log. So I would just write down whatever was happening during the day. And I really, really loved that practice. And then for the daily pages, I kind of picked a certain topic or a movie that I watched, and I really tried to, do some creative journaling with that. But very naturally, by the end of January, I just felt like I was kind of done with that and I wanted to try something else. So at the start of February, I decided to move my daily log entries to the daily pages. And I started using my weekly pages as kind of a media log. And again, I didn't even give it a lot of thought. I just thought it would be fun to write down if I was reading a certain book or starting another book, and then by the end of the week I would write down how much progress I had made. I would also just write down if I had gotten any new stuff in. That also helps me when making these kinds of videos because I kind of wrote it down throughout the month. Otherwise, it is very easy to forget. So this has been kind of fun to track it this way. And I also have really been enjoying the daily pages in February. And again, I am not sure how much I want to show of those daily entries. But on the 4th of February, for example, our sweet cat Boots turned 18 years old. So I just included a picture of her and a picture of her as a kitten. And I am also just still working out the details. So for example, I tried stamping on the Hobonichi paper. That completely bled through. I then stamped on a little bit of sticker paper and cut those off, but I am now at a point where I can't be bothered by all of that, so I just write it down with a little bit of color. I also included these little highlights on the page. That really helps me when I just want to flip through the journal. And also, as you can see, I like to include some stickers and stuff. So it is all still evolving. And as you can see, it is chunking up quite nicely. And this has just been a very lovely daily practice for me. Like I said, it really is not intimidating at all to have an A5 size. I actually feel that it is the perfect amount of space to kind of write about my day. I'm writing pretty exclusively with my Platinum 3776 with an extra fine nib. This is without a doubt the finest nib size in my collection. I have other pens with an extra fine nib, but the Platinum ones really are very sharp and precise, and I love that for this type of paper and for just a whole look of finished pages. So I love writing with this one so much, and I really had not expected that I would, because my preferred nib size usually is fine. So that is my update for my daily journal. And of course, it is a lovely moment to share a new pen that I got in February. And yes, it is another Esterbrook. This is the Esterbrook ST Blue Moon. And this is actually a re-release, meaning that this was an older model of Esterbrook and they temporarily have it back in stock. And this is kind of the issue with fountain pens when they do these limited editions. The FOMO is real, and I was actually not really planning on splurging a lot on pens in 2025. But I decided to just go for it, and I can always sell this one if I really do not use it or want to slim down my fountain pen collection. But for now, I am not planning to do that, and I am very happy to have this one in my collection. And I got this one in an extra fine elastic nib. And that is the Esterbrook ST Blue Moon. Let's continue with some thrifting finds from February. I wasn't really able to go to a lot of thrift stores in February, but I did have some fun going over some second-hand websites and finding some beautiful stuff there. It was, in a way, a little bit of retail therapy for me. And I got a few very random but very beautiful things that I am very happy with. And let's start with a little writing chest that I found. I'm actually not sure what the correct English title is for these types of wooden chests, but they are basically these vintage wooden chests that were used to store some writing supplies, and you could also use them to write on top of them. And I have quite a large one that I have on my desk. But I saw this one online and I absolutely fell in love with it. It was really different from a lot of writing chests that I see around. It was quite a bit smaller and square. I really loved the look of the wood. It is this really dark stained wood with some metal details. And honestly, I didn't need it at all, but I thought it was so beautiful that I really couldn't resist. And I am so happy that I decided to splurge a bit on this one, because I immediately realized that it would be an amazing little altar space. The lid actually stands open, so it is absolutely perfect, and I'm just so very happy with it. Another lovely little find was this letter holder. It's also made of beautiful wood with some metal or copper details, I don't know. And it turned out that the seller was actually pretty local to me, and she was selling her stuff in this little store-in-store thrift store thing pretty close by to where I live, so I was able to actually go and pick it up there. It is now on my desk and it houses some illustration books that I am currently reading and some illustrations that inspire me. So it's just a really lovely way to organize all the little bits and bobs from my desk in a very lovely way. And when I went to pick up that letterbox, I also noticed that they were selling this shell. It was only like €3.50 and I thought it was absolutely beautiful. I couldn't resist getting this one as well. I love shells, I love fossils, I love crystals and stuff, so this was a lovely addition to my collection. Two other things I randomly picked up were this little wooden tray, and the same seller was selling this little journaling clip for a lovely price, so I just decided to get both of these. And it was just a lovely way to kind of treat myself to some little thrift store finds without having to go to a thrift store. Now let's move on to books. I didn't get a lot of books in February, except for this one. This is Draw Yourself Calm, Draw Slow, Stress Less by Amy Miracle. I hope I pronounce her name right. I believe she also has some social media or Instagram or stuff like that. I'm not really active on social media, so usually I am kind of the last to find out or discover artists or stuff like that. But I randomly came across this book, and making drawings with ink and using my fountain pens is really something I enjoy a lot. I usually just freestyle a bit, but I love to be inspired by nature and natural patterns and stuff. And I know there are plenty of books about Zentangles or drawing slowly or drawing certain patterns. But this one was actually the first one that I really loved the style of. It is really dynamic and inspired by nature, so it is right up my alley. And I just really love the look of it, and it is lovely to have books like this in my collection for whenever I need some inspiration and just also to practice and learn some new skills. Now, of course, with my limited time and limited abilities to kind of hold a pen or sit behind a desk for very detailed drawings like this, I haven't really started with this book yet, but I hope to be able to do that very soon. And that is Draw Yourself Calm. And then let's go over some new decks I got in February. I am not buying a lot of decks at the moment, but I did get in a pre-order, a Kickstarter and a gift. Let's start with the pre-order. I received the Seasons of the Witch Oracle deck for Ostara in February. This is a mass market deck by Rockpool. And as you might know, there is a whole series of these decks, and this is actually the final and 8th deck in the series. All the decks in the series have this kind of color theme and of course the theme of the Sabbath. And for Ostara, it is this lovely kind of pastel, peachy pink color on the backs and a holographic gilding. As you can see, my copy is still in order. I have not worked with it yet. I also do not have all 8 of the decks. I actually have the Salwin and Yule ones, but they are in a box full of decks that I am ready to rehome. Although I love the idea of seasonal decks or a deck for every witch's Sabbath, in reality I do not really feel like working with a deck every 2 months. But what I do really love is having decks for the 4 specific seasons that I have here in my part of the world. So for me, the Ostara one really feels like spring. I then have the Litha Oracle that is perfect for summer. I then have the Maiden Oracle for autumn. And the Imbolc one for winter. So these are the 4 that I loved most from the series, and for me they fit the 4 seasons perfectly. And I kind of ignore the exact dates of the start of Ostara or Litha or whatever. Usually I just really start working with the decks when it truly feels like winter, for example, or when it starts to feel like spring. So I am very happy that Ostara arrived in February, and I am really looking forward to start using this one. And that is the Seasons of the Witch Ostara Oracle. The next one I was gifted by a friend, and this is the Lost Hollow Tarot. This is obviously a pre-loved copy of the deck. The deck feels a bit more modern, probably because of the color palette and the art style. But it is quite a fun little deck to have added to my collection. I haven't really been reading with it yet. I am considering etching this one in black because I think it would kind of elevate the look and feel of the deck a bit more and make it a little bit less clear that it is a pre-loved deck. But yeah, just a bit of a more modern and kind of comic book style vibe of a deck with a limited color palette. And that is the Lost Hollow Tarot. And then last but not least, in February I received a Kickstarter I had been waiting for quite a while. And it's the Victorian Fairy Tarot. Now this is a deck that was once upon a time released mass market, but it is since out of print. So I was very excited when I heard that there was going to be a Kickstarter for this tarot deck. And it is very obvious that the creators really tried to make a beautiful, luxurious keepsake version of this beautiful tarot deck. The Kickstarter was funded in May of 2023 and I received it in February of 2025. So that was quite a long time to wait for a Kickstarter. For me, that is all kind of part of the whole Kickstarter thing. If you want to have a ready-made product that is readily available, then don't go to Kickstarter, because that is all about projects and anything can happen within a project to have delays or surprises and stuff like that. So this was actually one of those campaigns that had quite a bit of issues with the printer and stuff, so there were delays and it was a long wait, but finally this one arrived. It comes in this quite huge box, and I only later realized that this one is already damaged. Here on the side there is kind of a tear in it. And unfortunately, I also had a bit of an issue with one of the decks that is in this box. So let's just quickly see what is in the box. We have this certificate of authenticity for the deck, a beautiful hardcover guidebook, then there is this little cardboard box, and this one holds some of the extras, a notebook, some postcards with the artwork, and a reading cloth that I haven't unpacked yet. And then there are two decks. So we have a regular size and a mini size version of the Victorian Fairy Tarot. And like I said, it is very clear that the creators really tried to make a beautiful, luxurious version of this deck. There's this beautiful matte golden gilding on the cards. But I should be completely honest that I was a little bit disappointed by this whole Kickstarter. So the reason I backed this one is because this whole illustration style makes me feel very nostalgic. I do not really have a deck like this in my collection yet. And it's not like I love this style of illustration enough to have multiple decks that are kind of in this category. But I was very clear that if I wanted one, it would be the Victorian Fairy Tarot. The illustration style really reminds me of children's books from my childhood. So overall, I am happy to have this one in my collection. That being said, there are a few things about this deck that bother me a bit. Now, I do not have the original out-of-print mass market version of this deck, but when you see a side-by-side comparison of the two, it is very clear that they have done quite a bit of editing of the original images. The contrast and the colors have changed, but also all the images are kind of zoomed in and cropped to allow for the borders on the new edition to be inside of the picture instead of below, as it was with the original printing. That in itself would not really bother me that much. Since I do not own the original version, I cannot really compare the two that much. But unfortunately, it is very clear that those edits really took a toll on the image quality of this deck. And it is very hard to truly capture on camera what the effect is. But basically, looking at these cards in real life, the images are pretty blurry, and I feel like the deck looks better on camera, maybe because there is a little bit of correction there or it adds to the sharpness of the image. But looking at it in real life, it is quite a bit blurry. That is visible on the card backs and also just within the illustrations. And again, it is very hard to capture. Initially, I really thought that it was a me problem, but I've seen a few reviews and reactions around, and I now realize that it is an issue with the image quality. The same issue is here with the mini deck. Again, I feel like it looks better on camera than it does in real life. But for example, the face of the fool is just very blurry. On some cards it's way more noticeable than on other cards. And of course with a mini deck it stands out a bit more because the images are already pretty small. And it is more noticeable if the details are a bit blurry. So honestly, I have a bit of mixed feelings about this deck. I really appreciate the effort that went into this deck, and I appreciate the feelings of nostalgia and the whole illustration style. So I am happy that I was able to add this one to my collection. But especially when you consider the amount of money that went into it for me, with backing the Kickstarter and then shipping it to Europe and paying the import fees and everything. I would have much preferred if the creators had just made it very, very simple and done a very kind of copy and paste reprint of the original, maybe with different colored borders on the bottom or something like that to distinguish it from the original. Now maybe it was a copyright thing, I have no idea, but all the edits that were done to the images just really took a toll on the image quality. And at the end of the day, all the extras and additional, stuff in the Kickstarter is all fun and games, but I am in it for the deck. And that was just kind of a bummer to be a bit disappointed by the image quality. Like I said, I am not at all blaming the creators. I think they have really, really tried to create a beautiful reprint of this deck. And of course, I contacted them about that missing 10 of winter cards. And I was promised to have that one replaced. I have no idea if they will only send the card or send a new deck. I just hope that I don't have to pay additional import fees for that one as well, because this one has just cost me more money than I think the actual product was worth. All of that being said, I do love the vibe of this deck. That makes me just feel very nostalgic and reminds me of my childhood. So I am sure that at the end of the day, I will really find a purpose for this one within my collection and I will really enjoy using it. As soon as I have forgotten all the money I spent on it. But I am sure I forget about that in time. And that is the Victorian Fairy Tarot. And that's it. Those were some of my memories and favorite things from the month of February. There were quite a bit of emotions and it was a bit of a roller coaster. But I also really try to find little moments of joy and also enjoy these beautiful new things that came my way in February. I also realize I completely forgot to mention that I upgraded my camera and mic setup in February. And I think this is actually the first video that I will be posting using my new camera and mic. After filming all my videos for over 3 years on my iPhone with a really annoying process involving an external microphone that I had to connect to my computer, I was so very ready and happy to use a process that was much more quick for me and a lot more enjoyable. So I can only hope that both the video and audio quality was acceptable for you as well. I hope you enjoyed going over my favorite things from the month of February. And feel free to let me know in the comments if you had any favorite books, decks, journals, or whatever in the month of February. I would love to hear it. And that is another timer for me, which is telling me that I have to lie down and rest. So I guess it's a perfect time to say goodbye. I wish you all a lovely rest of your day or night, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!